Welcome to The Faith Alive, a video series from the Diocese of Harrisburg that explores and explains the basics of the Catholic faith. One of the aspects of our Catholic faith we celebrate during Holy Thursday is the institution of the Eucharist. The Eucharist, the actual, real body and blood of Christ, is an amazing gift we receive at every Mass, and I'd like to focus on this sacrament today. First of all, what does the Catholic Church say the Eucharist is? We say it is the real body and blood of the risen Jesus. The body, blood, soul, and divinity of our risen, living Lord is present under the sacramental signs of bread and wine. The word Eucharist, of course, comes from the Greek, and it means thanksgiving. And in the action of the Eucharist, Christ is present, and we give perfect thanks to the Father in union with his Son Jesus. In each of the accounts of the Last Supper, it says he takes the bread and gives thanks. He takes the cup of wine and gives thanks, says the blessing, and then hands it, saying, "This is my body, this is my blood." So the word Eucharist refers to the sacrament itself. When we receive the Eucharist, we call that Holy Communion, but it also refers to the whole action, the liturgical action, in which the bread and wine are changed, substantially changed into the real presence of Christ. So the important thing that I would emphasize is that our Catholic faith teaches, and has from the very beginning, based on our Lord's own words and intention, that in the sacrament of the Eucharist, we have the real presence of Christ among us in his most precious and specific gift. A lot of Christian denominations celebrate the Eucharist or a communion service or receive Holy Communion in their services. And we often might wonder then, well, what's so special or what's different about Eucharist in the Catholic Church? And I think not all other Christians would subscribe to what I just said is our Catholic belief. In many denominations, the celebration of the Eucharist is seen simply as recalling, in reverence, in gratitude, but remembering what Jesus did at the Last Supper, and then receiving bread and wine in thanksgiving for Christ's saving love and his death on the cross and his resurrection. But the difference is, I think, in the understanding of that word when our Lord said, "Do this in remembrance of me." There's a very specific meaning to biblical remembering. And I think if we look to what our Jewish friends believe about the Passover supper, it helps us understand the way we use the word remembering. When a Jewish family, led by the father of the household, celebrates the Passover, after they recall the story from Exodus about passing over from the slavery of Egypt into the Promised Land through the Red Sea, there's a beautiful part of the Passover Seder that says, each of us now must look upon ourselves as having been delivered by God from Egypt. In other words, participating in the remembrance of the first Passover makes each of those have an experience of that miracle. And so biblical remembering means not just recalling something of the past, but that very mystery is represented, not just represented, but it is present again, represented to us in mystery in the here and now. And so our Catholic understanding is we're not just looking back to what our Lord did at the Last Supper with his apostles around that table on the night he was betrayed and the night before he died, but we are participating here and now in that very mystery. That's really what biblical remembering means, what it signifies. The mystery itself is present again to us, and that's our Catholic understanding in the celebration of the Mass. We're not thinking back only to the Last Supper. We're not sort of doing a dramatic representation of it, but that very mystery of the first Eucharist is present again. Some will say, well, God is everywhere. He created everything. And Jesus is God. So what's particularly special about his presence in the Eucharist? Isn't God, Jesus, really present everywhere? And there is a level of truth to that. Certainly, God is present in his creation. I like to tell candidates for confirmation many times. A candidate will say, I want to take the name Francis at the moment of my confirmation because Francis liked animals and I like animals. Um, and I always take the occasion to say, St. Francis didn't just like animals. He didn't just talk to fish and the wolf, and rather, when St. Francis saw an animal, he remembered who created that animal. He saw through creation to the Creator. He wasn't just an animal lover, but rather he understood that this animal is the handiwork of God the Creator. And so that spirituality of St. Francis, I think, is very important for us. Yes, God is present in his creation. But, if there's someone very special in your life, someone you truly love, have a very close relationship with, it's one thing to have their picture. You might carry it in your wallet. You might have it in your home or in your office. It's another thing to talk to the person on the phone. Now you can have a living conversation. You can even do FaceTime, so you're talking and seeing the person. But there's a whole world of difference when you're in the presence of that person and you're really connected, speaking with, physically present to the one you love. That's the way I would compare the presence of our Lord in the Eucharist. God is present in his creation, and we take a walk in the woods and we can thank God and speak to God about the beauty of his handiwork. God is present in other people. We are the acme, the summit of his creation, the human person. But if we really want the fullness of God's presence, the gift of his presence as he's given us, then the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist has been called the presence par excellence, the presence beyond which there's no greater. And if we really love someone, we want that presence. And that's what makes the Eucharist so different. Different from just saying, yes, God is in the sun, that's his creation. God is in this beautiful flower, in this plant. God is in this animal, he's in another person. But we want, when we truly love someone, the presence par excellence, that presence beyond which there's no greater. And that's the presence of our risen Lord in the gift of the Eucharist. We've all seen surveys recently that tell us that large percentages of Catholics say they don't believe in the real presence, maybe as much as 70% in a recent survey. Why is that? Well, first of all, I wonder about how the surveys are framed and how the question is asked. But even beyond that, I think we do have a very big challenge in our Catholic Church regarding the catechesis on this sacrament and really on our Catholic faith in general. We've maybe in the last several decades haven't really been teaching the fundamentals, the most basic truths of the faith. And I think it's important for all of you viewers to take the time to continue to explore all the aspects of our Catholic faith, but most especially this precious gift of our Lord's real presence in the Eucharist. Those who say they don't believe in it really need to look to the Scriptures to see how realistically Christ speaks about his presence as he is the bread of life, and to read some very solid, good Catholic theology. That understanding, I think, will lead then to a deeper faith and a full acceptance of this great mystery of the presence of Christ in the Eucharist. I thank you for joining me, and until the next time, God bless.